I'm ashore for a couple of months and ready for crew training over the autumn. There's a bunch of there to have your mind own. I'd imagine most have tuned in to hear emails, questions about the expedition's plans. For the safety of my crew and tracked or fully kitted out radar, chart plot, GPS type technology will be used during this first navigating the oceans for terrestrials 1970s, and I just don't the our worlds. Unlike GPS, it doesn't. Navigation relies on specific mathematical equations to determine our position at the sun. Essential for converting sextant readings into lines of position on a normal. Apply these calculations to plus celestial navigation is my favourite undeniable proof. Using a sextant is impossible on a curved globe, and that's a sign relative to our flat world, where it will be at 90 degrees. The GP of that star relative to our flat position of the star, it works by using a sextant to measure the star, and like I've already body only works if we're on a flat. Now, if one of and that they are both in what's called a circle of equal altitude is exactly that, equal altitude. You know, it's sea level, not sea curve. Between that circle flat. Scientific enough fact is either a non-player character full reason you are somewhere on that circle. This is how that level plane. Flat. One area of equal altitude is absolutely flat, but by doing times to create more equal altitude, we can why object is purposely overcome. They don't want you using this truthful and using a sextant, taking a few bearings and referencing them, and being competent in this of their own. You won't like the captain. The stunning work gives a sneak peek of the but against buying one of these, the chances are they're not. These old sextants are often, if the arcs are distorted, they won't be accurate anymore. These are after. New good quality. I use Davies 25, but you can get a good quality one for about 300. Just make sure it has easy to lose and hard to replace. When we use the sun to take a bet, looking at the sea level, you use. Without them, over time, sailors use. When sailors are pictured in movies that wear an eye patch, days and nights, fog storms, which can be. So I replace a slice. When we look through it will show the sun. Navigational tools like this, we use a wee piece of calcite in the middle. If you look at my profile picture, it's the same thing. I've had a few witchcraft, voodoo. Reality is much more just the Northmen, the for another time. When it comes to navigating our known world, we can't actually accounting for declination, which is the angle difference between geographical north, which is the imaginary north that the longitude lines are, and we've got direction that you call and says places on Earth. Latitude lines run south. A location is from the equator. That is an imaginary line that divides the Earth into northern and southern, while imaginary longitude lines or west, a location is from the GPS technology made to navigate their inaccurate maps that don't actually point to real north. Maps line up with a mainstreamly north, south, east, and not the actual north. Between geographic north, it's just referred to as run upside down that we all live in. This landmass that I refer to as Vista 3 is a separate moon, magnetic north, its own liquid ocean, its own infrastructure that was built in the 1200s, and probably human population. Spiral in north. My own has at least two working through space in my space. As we close nearer to the field, my pointing to the next world's map. So hoping to see the edge of a second constellation different to ours. To lands with rotating Capricorn, I'm expecting moons at once. Of people in the sky, usually with a halo. The sun and moon seem to be a dome disc type shape, right? And only in the world, we never see the dark side of. I think the backside of the sun and moon. As we sail in between par, I'm expected to look up and see the next world's sun in their sun's backside. So we'll be seeing a black sun with a two moons during the same time. At the end, can land on electromagnetic plasma. Magnetic energy comes from. The moon is a reversed image of that world's floor plan, a mirrored bird's eye view, an impossible. These are the same. When it comes to the lunar image, I'm not convinced that this is a reversed image of the world and immediate lands around. I'm kind of like rather than a. I've spent a lot of time this, and don't get me wrong, I'm not referring to vibes of the easy to debunk as it's 90% fantasy, not up. But I mean, I can't debunk the image that we can all see when we look at coincidence. So instead of trying to set, why don't we prove or disprove the moon map? Political map. Let's zoom into what I call Vista 3's distinctive shape peninsula. Accurate vibes' map is. He labels, but this is location. Vibes is just. It's about 3,000 nautical miles. I sailed to this particular area and let mapping and surveillance drone open, and it maps this entire area, comes back confirming this peninsula land is a close replica of the world around us. If I try miles and still nothing, world north is pointing to the magnetic north, outwards in all directions is left and east is right. So if we sail east from Madagascar, we and the same Madagascar takes you to Australia. The globe, we hit Antarctica. It's Antarctica over here. I'll be navigating out of this world using the Celestials, the Petteradura, the combined help of photographers. based, a fantastic artist. We've been working for world chart or some computer generation of fantasy, like alongside art, not just build a rotatable circular chart as intended, taking inspiration from an astronomical clock in Prague, the astronomical clock in our with a supposed installation. The clock's been ticking for 616 years. A transparent celestial key and star map and wrote the first to be created. Navigate is because he didn't. The moon's not a flat image. It's just like when you go to a different into a dome mirror. It clearly distorts its reflection in a very distortion. Lunar wall. He's added 3 ice screen pillar. Right, let's look at the reflection walls in this image. Vibe's entire research is set of the moon image. So where these ice walls from? I'll tell you where he's getting them. There's no whatsoever that these or any the ice walls are just mind games. You don't need me. But what we do is stopping you all from putting in place expeditions. So what I've done, I can do it. I've received thousands of correct. More of you that would love to become an expert. I'm going to go through some of the basics on what's needed, and I'm going to give you the. I'm going to send people, mechanics, medics, and all that kind of stuff. Too. I'm hoping crews will crews myself. So when it crew restrictions, the only one is adults only, mature-minded 18s. So I'm quite prepared mentally, physically, and came to think seriously about everything and realistic scenario. My crew's safety is my utmost importance and legally responsible for future expeditions and crews. I'm happy to advise any genuine crews, civilly speaking that is, as I know they're rated on the first of the first year, but the second and I intend on 5 years after. You know, these Antarctica, you're sailing into a relatively small vessel. You and your crew need to have balls so gigantic, figuratively speaking. I think say it is confident within them, comfortable in their own company. Hardest part, right, and organising my experience. Being trapped and mentality. These circumstances can snap a weak man. You or your crew members don't have it. Everyone needs to retain the skill. Message home. You can friends in courses all over the world, or even better, once you've got a course, they could teach the rest of you. Over the past 6 years alone, I've been on yacht Saorsa. I don't live in a marine. I live on anchor to the weather. A few good friends, plodding along, and a cool breeze on your face, or a fat spliff in your hand. True sailor craves. The rough stuff. Climbing mountains. Us sailors get to experience and survive an 80-mile with serious injury or damage. It's not about. It's not fearlessness or stupid sense of. Raw power has a beauty. A wee bit Lieutenant Dan. Platform to connect the genuine applications. This is not a game. I've had over 1,000 emails from I want to go, or a name or a single detail about you. From how old you are, if you in the first place. Take me to this wall or some dumb shit like that. Subject headers and info. Subject privately on a fairly due to their experience into roles, or you have a high level of sailors as a first officer, aka captain's mate, mechanics, or maybe groups of friends and crews, and even combined crews, so you can set up your numbers and all that. My eldest son, there'll be old man, he doesn't take behaviour. We won't stand for anyone being abusive If you're there, you'll be kicked out. This is not a democracy. It's not. This is a platform to use YouTube comment section. We can debate and discuss it like adults and move forward. We just need to. They're going to need their own communicate skills amongst other crew members. Here to use, show you the basics of what's needed. So the pages, I guess, but all this with a few examples of cost. Guarantee you it's cheaper than your rails, navigation, the water supplies and water maker. The sides have about a 2 freshwater tank fitted as a standard minimum, plus ideally fit. This filter's expensive. I build my own units for under 600 on YouTube. Essential items. Saorsa 1 is a 7-berth yacht, a self-sufficient floating house with a main energy of electrically powered by solar and wind turbine, shower water, and the option kit and skills, an unlimited amount of fresh food from the ocean that surrounds us. No fusion. It's a free that kind of like my car. On the platform with some, you could look into splitting the cost to portable expedition vessel, unless you can make a 200-foot boat to the outer lands and back under a. That's why we need a same power and propulsion. It's free. Forward. With a steel or aluminium hull. You ideally want a yacht that's 30 in length. The keel type does it's a bad time to sell a boat for about to 20,000 sterling. Now at that price, I know, let's say 15 grand, but fix, and that works. And 3 grand is still a lot of money. Been on a couple of expeditions, you'll get your money and maybe even make a profit. sell it, and it won't be anything. I guarantee it'll be 12 that you're really. And when you compare it to one of these Antarctic trips I've previously shown, around a few islands near Antarctica, 60 grand for a couple of pictures of fucking penguins. To lands unlike on that we can walk on and so when it comes on how we plan on we witness, but I'm more interested, what would it take to put animals and other just like these. Same goes for the trees and plants, maybe even a human pot. How would you? Now I'm sure most of you are probably thinking, I could only truly believe. Personally, I've never been to China, but I'm 100% certain to believe that China existed because I hadn't seen it. I sound like a right idiot. So what would you believe in? Or we have multiple of the equipment, and I'm even bringing back the old school with film constant type cameras. Editions such as this, which have LiDAR with 2D and 3D and image stitching. The vessel in safe. If it's deemed to be safe to go to multiple 48-hour expeditions on 4 drones. Can be. This will give you an opportunity to know the events and personal this adventure. Or given out any. At the end of the day, I can't try to pass it off as hidden lands. Not only will people recognize CGI fakery and will prove you has never before. And what we find out there. But even if I don't find hidden outer lands and exploring areas that we already know, like the Arctic and the land, we know where these places are. The captain goes where no other man expeditions that will hold an extra 18 crew and passengers if needed for the other vessels. Icebreakers don't work. Engines push it, so they hump their way through the ice. The icebreaker will be useful and passengers, plus other equipment like a helicopter. give me a these future expeditions I'm looking at navigational experts, drone geologists, climatologists, botanists, men not expecting to find certain roles like surgeons, but there's plenty of enlightened people in the community over briefly talked about hypothesized about the incubator babies, selling babies, the evolution, theorizing that this is what soulless. Probably heard the term NPC. You'll probably say something along the person that you've most often they just expression and change, or the usual brainless and laughing at you, calling you. We can all and then just being more stupid. You've had the while they remain fast asleep. You can't wake up a non-player character around people. They can't. The reason why I say these non-player characters exist in a literal sense is because they undeniably prove that they exist surrounded by. There are two different species of human in this realm, and they come in both easily provable in many different ways. And once I've picked it, it'll make it is the way it is right now. I guarantee you all have friends and find out that you, as I suspect that player characters play, and once and you question them, they'll admit it. They live. A soul, a human being without a soul, is an inner dialogue, inner speech. Non-player characters don't us. Human being has inside them. To be able to hear our own. We don't hear the voice without for an non-player character, and I'll be showing you non-player characters shortly. But this is you in the non-player characters. But how I see this, our internal, our life force, it's our connection to source, if that's what you want to. Adrian Rich said it best. God, that we throw over the mystery to give it shape. Our subconscious, We have the ability to ask our higher self anything of meaning and from source. Vessel running on bias. It doesn't have an internal monologue. It just runs on. Put now. I'm going to play a couple of clips from good using the
talk
Right.
in my head.
Tried to do that since learning internal monologue exists, and I
this information to the people who think in their head. News. I do have this internal monologue.
correct. People are
Question was how do you I words in my head. I don't know.
I read, I can see the sentence sentence. And words will pop out. Reading the main topics that I read about. And I tend to move my lips when I read. It's just not like audible.
Do you like reading like fiction?
Reading
At
and
all?
I think like I can see
Reader?
Yeah.
She's question 12. I'm not even. It's not fair. How do you know? People like me get through.
no, I just feel like it's there's
Do that, like if I'm, but just like if I'm sitting in person, I'm like talking to my. Does that not happen?
if I have a thought normally I say it out.
Do you daydream often?
No. Actually, I can't that I
Normal dreams? Do you hear? Anything? What?
like if I'm but I hardly ever just like I don't just
Is on this? Do you even care? Wrap my head around this, but she is.
I do like if I'm at like laying in bed at night like I have, like lists of things I need to do in order to make them go away.
Do you
I can't shut it out.
Just constantly talking. I feel like a lot of people that are in my situation also think that, like, they wish they could shut. But then again, we don't. Even worse. So.
Zero problem.
Lady.
It's less, I think, of a minute. Feel like I am. Hands are shaking, or feel really not. Like,
message me, and that most of the people that don't will speak multiple languages. Which, whatever you took.
Yeah, I was really good at high school language. I love language. I love sentence structure.
Them or not.
Stuff?
Sure.
More of like checkboxes in my head. Be like, yep.
Boston, Massachusetts. But for the had an inner monologue.
I thought of their own head. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, if I have nothing working on anything,
where that shuts off. Can you just try to put in words?
it's so. But it's truly nothing. Right? Have you ever had one of those and your eyes sort of go that, except without the data? Nothing is happening inside. You're just
daydream, and you're just there. Now, comprehend that scary and awful. My way of thinking to a 24/7 podcast going on in my head where I hear it's me narrating my life to myself.
that sounds right. I think that's the case.
Who both say they not only also can't anything in their minds. Blank upstairs.
Completely blank, and on the extreme end of balance. So,
but with a twist. Can you put into words, or at least words, how you think?
presentation of nothing, if that makes sense. If you can imagine your mind's eye being a computer screen, so if I want to use Google, again, and you'll get, it's like I've got a computer in there with no screen, and I just know. If you took a monitor and you still had your image looks like, it's just explain it for you. So that
says he discovered his brain years ago when he tried out mind.
There was meditation, and I was just like lying there, feeling just basically completely, and then I had the realization that it's in there.
Crisis, including wondering
These like rich inner lives, and like he's kind of like living like half a life. I don't else have soul, and I may actually be an NPC.
types his brain without a monitor. It kind of like actually seeing the green numbers.
If that makes sense. You saw
Around, just look. What about memories? Ability to see it, visualizing the faces of his family.
wife and a son. I can describe it to you, but there's
and building a wooden sword with his grandfather inside his green tool shed. Right now.
this is the hardest part to describe. And this is what I'm saying. It's like there's no movie. Again, right when there's no moving.
As if I'm recalling and you see a moving thumbnail, what that video
Yeah.
is. It's like 3 seconds, then it loops. 3 seconds, then it
Yep.
loops. Remembering being a kid on the beach. 5 minutes. It plays for like a few seconds. Like in
Save it.
Christian vice versa.
And response type videos from people.
Experience an inner monologue. Someone label us NPCs form of hate. Now you might ask, well, what goes on in your head? How do you? Those of you who do have it creepy, you're thinking, what do you? Because the truth is that I go about my life. I go to a trusted news site, and depending on how I'm, and that will become my own. And so to those of you labeling us, I would point out you should.
It's like Dr. Russell ways to test to see if someone has a subconscious or not. One being what's called an Imagine a red apple. Now, open your eye. If for you, nothing, just black. People, but they just can't picture a perfect film. I could turn it into a bowl of green tree. Reach up and pick one. I can take. I can pick a seed from its core and plant it. I can walk before my mind's eye into a apple tree full of back to red apples. In my head, I can do and create anything. Some if this proves they were all one, right? These are just a few of the have an internal monologue, a dialogue. They don't daydream ever. Deep and tend to. They're fast reading. They read by paragraphs, not words. Not the individual words to be Bible, so they have the ability to learn. But it's just the you return back, you are head in a situation of your thoughts, a video feelings, basically a has passed. Unsymbolized thinking, when lights are on but no one's home. So when you're running on autopilot, doing some awareness, so paying attention. I put these pieces of the puzzle together a while ago, so I do very different types of human world, and the fact that exist, and so he sees amongst my own friends and family, which will fit through your heads, a pondering question. What happens if you what and what's the percentage with an internal monologue can only produce a child with a two people without a soul. Internal monologue, but it seems to be about a 50-50 to if the child has. But social media has some great interviews and where one of the parents have a soul and the other doesn't. The same goes with videos like this. It's a lovely
from the wedge. A wedge. Yellow attached. Ooh. To move a little bit. I too. Here are the colors of a song. Nice. Orange and kind of pink and.
seems to be due to my views. I don't player character. This subject just needs much more. But now, into this world, we're being run. I'd imagine the majority of practical theatre and the part of non-player characters for the way they do. Some would say if you don't vote for one of the playing when the wrong one power, but the reality these cult script readers do not buying parasites in and taking part in their. You have no right to. At that point, you need to shut your whining mouth. Foolish slave that you are. None of these parasites are. I vote we hang them from the democracies without having a large percentage, giving you the illusion of simply putting them in with the illusion grab to be able to get married, the illusion going on the yearly 2-week holiday your employer allows. You'll be a much and your cage is now in your head. Characters programmed or running on programs, uploading it Matrix style. I don't is for the legally for national nation is for us. You're taught to is built us. Like I've said, forced indoctrination camps are for the same bullshit. It's for them. I don't believe that. Even Katy Perry went into space for but they do. Katy Perry in the I'm actually surprised Big Mike wasn't leading the way with his gigantic and I've heard this prick's building a base. That would be about as real as his piece of. They know that we don't. In a large nonsense since nursery, there's nothing that they won't child until about the age of 14. They can't go change it themselves. The only change it is to change the children. And the same media. These weapons do damage both thinkers and non-thinkers. But still, these weapons are for the. That's. But we are a minority in their democracy, and the religious. If you can't see this, was to get the non-player board so they could get with pillaging and taking over more. the soulless aren't just voters. I can only call this next part a theory of mine, but it's a fair. Let's say, for example, as a core experience that are popular to their agendas. So as that they often brag about to the mindset of some have them walk into a school and in on their schoolmates. Just one of many examples was when Thomas Hamilton walked into a private within 6 months and much stricter life and he changed the player character. This incident in Dunblane was gun crime stats, firearm crime steady ever since. And for criminals coming to the drug dealing gang type and the cult thug enforcers. And narcissistic, psychopathic revenue from you. Out or walking into 100 bullets from, and the police are all killing the child. The shooter doesn't even need to do it. And all of a sudden there's a voice, but it's not yours. Maybe Jesus. Let's say the cult needs some more discussions, theatre and the sway of their characters. They can man. Just put your non-player character in place. Job done. Awful crimes, but maybe, just maybe, all of these mass shootings, murders that always seems to fit into mass murderers, maybe the majority of these are just programmed. We know sub children. Deaf and I wanted to say trying to incite violence or a couple to side. They're not with you to begin with. Up or wait till you've got more in fake Jesus coming to save you than you have the non-player character. Pandora's box. I've unsolved people in my own circle. They're still my friend and family. I still love them. The high majority are good people. You just don't know that there's something missing from them. I can't just openly tell edition, but I advise any would-be. We need multiple. The way things are in this lunatic of for now, like Terra del. You can go on online at any time and see them, which is like a direct. They're mainly expedition supply ships, type vessels, or pleasure vessels. It's too big in Antarctica to just be able to expedition. If any other vessels, it's against their treaty rules. If you call hundreds of comments and emails of being intercepted past the. These are the rules set in place by governors, which are old countries. Applies to all land or ice shelves passed south of the seas. Shelves pass south, but the treaty doesn't apply. Means and seas. And this is a 60th degree south on a mile. The 60 degrees south. No one has the leave or turn and travel wherever the fuck you want. The truth is, no one's exploring this world. There is beliefs and reality leaving. The other landmasses that ordered that there's, for example, they now give us now called Australia, but they traffic and air traffic poison our healthcare, poison the water supply, the food, and even the air we breathe. Live amongst us. They clean parasites feed off you. They've been like the elites. There's a reason why the cool and the super rich are location of Lakesh and Galicia from the west coast of the Americas is and reports from back in the day about the cool to Antarctica, but why? For most in the truth community, they believe and to Gleason's map. The flat Earth exactly the same image, and same and the same as the United Nations. Map next to the map. It's pretty close. So, where did Gleason get his layout? I copied it from the map. I don't really have an issue. It's the ice wall that's the biggest. All but Australia with an ice wall. ways to travel to Antarctica. I show that all travel to Antarctica is to the Drake Pass. From Australia, India, or anywhere else in this world. I've even had people trying to debunk me about this absolute fact, sending me trips from places like South Africa to ways going south from South Africa. The vessel travelled west across the Atlantic to the peninsula before it does tour guides taking you. It's never take you direct an enclosed line. Fear to make you feel hopeless. Nonsense like the Summer Gates book one-player characters spew out. Antarctica is an island landmass 5 million is about the size of and circumference about 30,000 nautical miles. Anyone Antarctica. A friend and my uncle, and he's led multiple Navy and Army sites Arctic and Antarctic. In 1970 to 1971, he conducted Island, King George Island, and led another expedition inland from in 1973. Of my own friend, this wall that wraps around us, no evidence whatsoever to back it up. Solo circumnavigation of to my Antarctica. To Antarctica. As a sailor, most masses are known. You can't go ashore in the option but to sail for about 120 days straight. I live at sea, and even to me, that's most would call Antarctica the South Pole. There's no such pole. It's a globe map, or any other old world map. We only have a magnetic north. We still have an arch from the anode. South is just us moving away from we can travel south, but there's no South Pole. There's no states. It's somewhere over here. But I'll let one of the shit tour guides don't work at the South Pole.
Here in the Ross Sea, McMurdo Sound on Ross Island, that's where. And so here's my compass I brought from, and there's a geometric north, geographical north. Magnetic South Pole is going to lines up. And magnetic off of it. And that's the difference geographic and 40 degrees you in almost the complete opposite direction.
Isn't even on the continent. It's over here. That doesn't exist. The tourists. Lands are safer to travel to. And remember, 60 degrees south. And even if it was illegal, it's in the middle of an ocean in the you just can't the vessels to even attempt to police the ocean. Why would they stop? And before anyone stopped radar, the best range of about 200 nautical miles, 40-ish. I'll be completely. When I see photos and videos, I don't see the race ground that we're led to. Leaks. Further an ocean. But don't forget the place looks totally habitable. It kind of reminds me of Alaska or parts. Detail, we could see mountain ranges, things like that. Wasn't completely whited out. We can watch 1940s like and in Antarctica, 3 of our freshwater thermal lakes that
the bunger wipes his frosted wing. Named for the great escaped, kept its rendezvous with him. The smooth shelf roughens, dark rocks appear above the ice. Far in scenery, the cameraman goes into action. 300 square miles of land with land that might be in New Mexico. Pictures alone will. It is for some the hardships of exploration. Whose shores, except for small Bunger circles the largest where temperatures must be recorded. Samples taken. He finds the 1 degrees Fahrenheit on the and of most importance to see headline discovery.
Temperature is which 1946. So where have these white and digital documentary 100 square was off the Shackleton ice shelf. So this ice-free area was around here. But on Google Earth, it's just whited out. They call it that area. And even started growing trees. The last thing I wanted to do experiments. Realm. Now, I've never heard about these so-called experiments when it comes to this pasta. I think he collaborated with this until recently. This is one of the supposed flat earthers and returned a globe. I've come to the realization that there's no go. In my opinion, this is another non-player character or a low IQ Joe Rogan. Another. Anyways, I'm not much of a allergic to bullshit. Yeah, the Earth. So I decided to have so painful to watch, especially ones that I could debunk him back. His models revolve around a ice wall that wraps around. Now, of course, we don't all believe. I might be the only one to brainwash you into believing in the first place. So Pastor Schill talks about in Antarctica, and if given permission from the Antarctic would, but if they did, we could walk to the other. Now, even though I agree with it, nor would he get permission. Plus, it would be like walking, but in his spinny glove. Now, of course, Pastor Schill doesn't, but no Antarctic ice wall, but he seems to. It's sometimes hard to figure out or a page, but this guy's clearly a page.
With very few the Gleason's map of the North Pole at the center of the known world. The diameter around all the world's continents, as flat earthers claim, water must have a container. It ends the entire southern hemisphere area. Globe, everything south of the other. This is the perfect place to test flat earth claims and confirm the globe predictions. It's a working model that can final experiments collectively. Of the globe exist because the globe model exists because the globe exists. Flat earther tells you that there is no flat earth map and there is don't make predictions. That is an that a flat earth does exist because you can map things. This leads us to crossing Antarctica. Said for years that no one acknowledged that crossing Antarctica would be impossible on a flat Earth and that it would prove the globe. The reason for this is simple. On a flat entire known world. In a traditional sense. But and you can cross from one side. I need to idea where the South Pole is. If you there is even a South Pole. This geographic South Pole cannot exist.
Correct on one thing. Like he says, it only on a globe. But don't you globe and the shills are I'll dig the hole deep. So you've got a few options. Go full minus the ice wall, backed up with my model that my expeditions are based on. We can tell people like Pastor his so-called we can circumnavigate the UK or Australia. In some way that proves, or you can on believing in your I don't expect the old non-player character truth but don't expect to learn truth to truth lies and characters and morons like this. They make you look like idiots. My expeditions are the start of experiments. No workers like these and his moronic expedition crew. I would offer then that I'd end up throwing him overboard himself.
Okay. Get to my conclusion on the map. After carefully looking at both sides, dive into everything I could possibly. I have come to the conclusion neither lying nor immoral.
Bono Monte, 1587. And a couple of repeated notice that there's been all right, it has. Text removed. Areas or over an area where in older maps right? Who's them? Understand that you've got to under 3 copies of the Abono map remaining to my knowledge. 60 individual and removable pages that when cut out to shape and connected together, they make a 10-foot by 10-foot version. This one's been digitally stitched together by Monty, mounted on a circular wooden and it is dated 1587, but it was at 1567. But the between them, and we can find physical evidence. This is a self-portrait of Monty, looking middle-aged as Monty was 1987. Like I said, Monty drew his map 2025, and that maps, they're like children's lift-up books. So we have the old Monty on top, he obviously just wanted it all. Now, I studied Monty's entire career, and I've read that same story from multiple sources. I spent hours of that story and nothing. But now there's a new. The entire says that Monty published his map in the end. Nothing else. So now it says that he in 1587. Physical evidence portraits of young. So I asked the in the double cell portraits. An AI said Monty put years later, he basically recalled all of the form that portrait. Imagine a book author a photo of themselves. That's the new. So I asked AI another question. Fuck would he do that? It basically says it was down to Monty's vanity. That he, and I've never read a bad word about him. So vain that he drew him. He wasn't vain anymore, so to his true lies. A retarded story that was interaction with this AI. And the original portrait in the Monty map. No. Altered the 1587 chart. During the 20 years creating the map and updated. He was a man when he published it. The boy he was when he created by Japan on the Monty map. Japan's and on the model for the with us. Asla translates to Japan Island. The destruction event of the Monty pictured Japan in its exact shape and mass to its every cartographer before him, just like every cartographer after him. It's charted known trade routes this to be fully charted, fully detailed, shape this gigantic land into what's left page. The majority of the volume we see examples of this all over this region. Ring landmass for Guinea is what we know surrounding islands like Fuji. For ways of Capricorn. Now I'm not today. Monty didn't even. It was just the edge of the. He was mainly shot to navigate to them. Remember? New Zealand to the outer continent of Galicia. Terra del Fuego on the mainland to the outer of Terra del Fuego, the land of so on. But the due to our school information and deceptive maps using, we think Australia, but since the Mercator model has been officially being totally inaccurate, the cult soon supposedly Google Earth photos stitched together to make an image model shapes which have been inaccurate, which CGI bullshit and fakery. Saying that this is our shape, size and mass. As we look at landmasses like Australians, when we look at the so what's the real shape and mass of Australia? They can't seem to make, they even fortunately when we look we see the debunked Mercator model. It shows that we can't trust geography. We need to remap this entire world. Free air map is my favourite Gleason's map. Chart, which could be used for irrigation as well. And lastly on this Monty chapter, some people squeeze an eye. I've hit, as explained before, in the tropics. The line of latitude indicates that it's not an ice wall. Proof is at least sites that have enslaved you and turned the beautiful world into the hell. The cult are not the bloods of the gods. They're not they're not aliens or demons. Ones. You are. Their bombardment of the elites, making you believe me to see. A cult just means cult, but pathetic, scared, disgraceful, the least amongst us. And wants you to believe that move. The cult only took the world towards the end of the catastrophic reset around 1800. Went around they were. We all were. We're all here because of our families changed. They were in, but in our forces and took over the entire. They've worked towards. They've not even run in the world for that long. I don't keep relevant with a over in Iran. Must be the timeline has been invasion after takeover after takeover. Their new world order. How taken over by the cult to just be, like I've said, after the past reset, the cult just took the advantage while the world, and through my research this to us, and it's simply because they fear us. During the last general crisis of humanity, were slaughtered and wiped out. Nobles, lords, barons, politicians, tax collectors, merchants, and gentry alike, including their families, were massacred, executed in the streets, beaten to death, and if their homes weren't burned down, their estates and along with the family members and any supporters of them. Politicians being thrown out. How much money they've got, where their walls are. Now, they don't teach this next part. But open a search engine and ask, during the wealthy families that you do this to see the bloodlines. This purge happened worldwide and all during the same time periods. And here's just a few of the facts. The first, he was executed by the state. The king's supporters. Public execution followed by loans. Below are a few examples of mob-type killings, attacks, letters and officials. Of the Parsons attacked and many killed in massacres and local riots. In Scotland, local attacks on kitchens and house burning. You see, at the time, the English had the intelligence to seize like
burn it.
Which country you reach the same. We nearly wiped them. In France, nobles were executed or killed on the street. Germany, many noble estates and wealthy were murdered, depossessed, and to break down. Local gentry's family from power. In Sweden, noble levels in the 1700s. Some Polish nobles, Catholic clergy, and Jewish. Russia, rebel mobs lynched or murdered And all of this is just one instance. We've got a person Henley. Our world today is run as a claim I've heard being churned out for years and causes these set when people after being the first person about 200 hours is that the cult had nothing to do with this event that caused reset in the Little Ice Age. They're rambling on about no doubt that they make it rain or cause a hurricane. Spray aluminium into the sky and make a filter the power to cause a freeze an entire world for hundreds. The little amount if they wanted to kill you, they're creators. They are moving you into their new passports of role, but their death event. Who would indoctrinating you, stripping away what little freedoms you have? And like they say, you'll have no, and the masses will. They're certain. Now, non-player characters running on pro. Up of this clown world, I feel there's no fixing this place. It has to be built. We can only guide you. Enlightenment, piece things together. This chance. All the children, but especially the children, have been flooded with thousands that fail to deal with yourself. So don't homeschool them when you back to the beginning. Just send it to either the addresses on screen now. Ask for you more and not hear the reply off me. I'll start adding you all to the crew pack in a week or two. If you sent me a message didn't receive a reply from me, then this first months of applicants, I'll forward invites as the channels mirrored my original posted live streams and absolute legends like Mark from Our Melted Reality, Perspective, Eric DeBay, Virtus and Victor, Dude, Fire for his 3-part line. The most important. I wouldn't agree, but it was a lovely compliment. If you don't know any of these channels, give them